Hurricane Idalia has made landfall near Keaton Beach in Florida. Let's take a look at what happened.
The center of the storm has officially crossed into Florida as we speak as a Category 3 storm near Keaton Beach. So repeating, we do have official landfall near Keaton Beach, Florida as a Category 3 storm. Again, these impacts are going to continue as this storm continues to slide off to the north and east. Those outer bands are going to continue to push very heavy rain, very gusty winds, and yes, the potential for some tornadoes also exists across these areas as well.
Hurricane Idalia has hit Florida, a direct hit near Keaton Beach, Florida. If you still have power and are still watching television, this is the time that you take shelter, that you get into an area that is as safe as possible inside.
Like what we're doing currently. Like we're doing that because we're professionals. You know what I mean? Guys, we're professionals. Chill. We can do that. You probably shouldn't. Will not be good for you. Don't even think about it.
The storm has passed us by, but look at what's happening. You're still seeing these wind gusts. You're still seeing, because this is a very powerful storm, and you have the outer layers of the storm that are still very active here. We are in Crystal River. We are probably more than 50 miles away from where the storm is hitting landfall, and yet there are still effects. We are seeing flooding. The water, we have now come up about 3 feet because the water has now come up several feet from where we were standing moments ago. So we are seeing some of that storm surge. It is the water that is going to cause the greatest problem likely with this storm, especially now that it is no longer a Category 4 storm. It is the storm surge. Please, for God's sakes, be safe. Try to get your pets, if you have stayed in touch, try to get your pets into a safe spot as well. The storm has passed by, but you'd never know it because where he is, it is inundated with water. That storm surge having a serious effect on Tampa.
Dude, I don't know how the fuck you leave your pet behind. I'm not gonna lie. That shit is crazy to me, okay? I don't know how that is possible. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that could possibly happen. Like, how the fuck do you leave your pet behind? That's like a member of your family. You know what I mean? If you had a cat, you would stop playing, bro. Yeah, 100%. But that's why I don't have a cat. I'd be like, yo, that cat can deal with it on his own. You know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. For me, I'm not even kidding. There is literally no difference between leaving your baby behind. I do not see a world where you're just like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave my child behind. You know what I mean? I'm going to leave my baby behind because I can't bring him. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm fucking lying. I'm lying. I'm just like, if a hotel's like, sorry, you can't bring your pets. I'm like, okay, I have no pet. Don't worry. Please do not look in the box. Please do not look at this comically sized box that's moving. That's fine, okay? Do not pay attention to the barking box. Sir, do not pay attention to the barking box. Have you seen Metal Gear Solid? Have you ever played a little game called Metal Gear Solid? Look at the box. What could be in there? Maybe it's Solid Snake. Have you ever thought about that? That could be really cool, okay? I'm just saying, like, I get why certain people would make that decision when push comes to shove. I'm simply stating that from where I'm standing, the way I value Kaya's life, there's just no fucking way. I would never. There's no way. Am I crazy for this? I mean, you guys do your own thing. If you care about your own life, you know, have fun. I don't. I don't know. Maybe this is a very white trait of me or something, but like I straight up value Kaya like a family member. In a situation like this, I would be like, all right, I'm tanking it. Like I'll die, I guess. You know what I mean? Sorry. Okay. We're not going to this shelter then. I think a lot of people forget, like in the old days, back when I was still streaming at Twitch, like when I first started streaming on Twitch, I used to work at the Young Turks and I lived in Brentwood in an apartment and there was a wildfire and I just brought fish with me everywhere I went that day because I was like, nope, not happening. I don't give a shit. We had to evacuate. There was a wildfire scare and I was like, yep, taking fish with me. No shot am I leaving my fucking dog behind in a wildfire. Absolutely not. Doesn't happen. I don't think people are understanding. I'm saying that like I value this dog like she is a part of my family. You know what I mean? I'm allergic to your dumbass baby crying. Okay? You don't see me complaining. Time's a need. You know what I mean? To be fair though, you are talking to a person who thought he was deathly allergic to Kaya. If you remember, I got eczema for the first time in my life. I went deaf in one ear. Luckily, these were all issues that happened to coincide and it wasn't like deathly allergies. But first thing I did was look up like, can you die from allergies to dogs? And also, can you just live with the rest of your life having a dog, even if you are allergic to your dog? Anyway, here's the full video of the destruction of the Horseshoe Beach, Florida camera moments ago. This camera was at least 10 feet above sea level. Waves were overtaking this camera during its final moments. That's a house, dude. Or like a shed, I guess. Well, it's done now. It's cool now. Dude, look at how gross that water is, dude. Holy shit. Storm surge is so nasty. It's just all poop. I feel like it's all poop and like bacteria that you haven't seen in a very long time. You know what I mean? Newly unearthed bacterias. God, Twitter fucking videos so ass cheeks. Let's keep going.
Landfalling hurricane in Florida in 12 months. Wow. And just walk with me and help paint this picture, because the surge is still coming in from Tampa Bay. We checked one of the tidal gauges near where we're located. It is currently at record levels, 5.5 feet of storm surge near the tidal surge gauge that is closest to me. That is incredible. Records go back to 1991. We're in record territory, and this is all working together almost in a symphony of cataclysmic events, right? We have not only a powerful major hurricane pushing up the water across the eastern sections of the Gulf of Mexico, a very shallow water basin, by the way, but we also have inland flooding that is moving from the ground towards the ocean. So these working together in conjunction, they meet in the middle and they rise up the water levels. That is also being combined with the impacts of a full moon, which is a supermoon, and that just has that great tidal swings with the highs and the lows. So even though we're nearing a low tide in Tampa Bay, we're still getting the surge and the impacts from this storm that is 200 miles away from us. Just incredible.
Supermoon, baby. You already know werewolves are coming back. Cataclysmic events, dude. Cataclysmic events. God hates Florida. God hates the South. I'm sorry. Not enough butt sex happening. We already covered all of our bases yesterday. If I was a pastor in Florida right now, I would be urging my congregation to engage in the divine act of male on male love. I would be urging people to open up their butts and fuck one another in a devastatingly hedonistic orgy, because it seems like a lot of places that are engaging in such libations seemingly are not being impacted by God's anger. Open up your butts. It's time for the fuck pile. It's time for the top of the hour ad break. This is from 5 minutes ago in Cedar Key, Florida. Peak storm surge battering structures at Cedar Key. We are glad the TC underwent an eye wall replacement cycle at the end, but the wind field expanded and produced a dangerous surge. I don't understand why people are complaining about this. This is basically, like I said, indoor pool time. Not that bad. Not the worst thing. The indoor pool is kind of like this. In Turkey, we have a old wives' tale that is similar to the story of Achilles, who is Turkish, for the record. Everybody knows. In Erzurum, I think, you would take a baby, hold the baby up by their foot, and dump the baby in the incredibly icy river water. And if the baby survived, that baby was incredibly powerful. Okay? It's not like baptism, but I guess baptism is kind of similar to that. There's like many different versions of this. There's obviously like the Orthodox Christians in Russia that also have a similar story. But you dump the baby in the fucking river, and the baby gets protected because he can shelter. If he can withstand the cold river as a baby, then he can survive, okay? I don't think it's a real story, but ultimately my point is, it's kind of like that, the poop river inside of your house. You got to take a baby and dump the baby directly in the poop water, and if the baby stays alive after like a month, that means the baby is going to be stronger than ever before. A Floridian baptism, if you will. What happens if the baby dies? Then it was a L baby. What do you mean? Fucking hold this L, baby. Like, you're bitch ass. You died. You ain't shit. You're weak. As climate change makes extreme weather conditions more commonplace, it's not like a lot of the babies are going to survive anyway. This way, you're just like culling them before they even, I don't know, develop the capabilities of like writing stupid shit on Twitter. So I'm on board with it. That's what you got to do.
The good news is it seems like the surge has crested here in Steinhatchee. You can see this line of debris. There's some boxes and logs here. It has been receding ever since, but the devastation it is leaving behind is obvious. This is the dockside grill here. The Steinhatchee River rushed its banks. We knew that was going to happen. It normally runs from east to west. We're looking south right now. The force of the dirty side of this storm has been forcing so much water upstream against the current here, and the victims of that are all these fishing community villages, condos, communities. There's not a whole lot of development around the corner this way. Most of the town is behind us on higher ground, so that's good news. But where you were yesterday, John, the Sea Hag Marina, all of that, we fear, might have been wiped out as it's sort of the first bend in the river coming off.
So all the people who lost their homes and business, are they fucked or do they have insurance? I don't know for each individual person there, but I do know that Florida no longer has homeowners insurance. So I don't know if they have it or not. Some of them might be lucky enough to have it, but a lot of them don't.
The family, the couple who owns this marina, you can see their mood, shift from hopeful early in the morning to more resigned as the destruction becomes obvious here. But we're also starting to see people drive around, which is probably not the wisest move right now. There's still gusts that are kicking up, not as bad as we saw a few hours ago, but you can understand people's instinct to want to check out the damage, see what survived, what didn't. Too soon for that.
You said for now, at least, the surge seems to be going the other direction. I know the tide could still come in more, but for now, the worst seems to have passed.
Yes, you can see that it's a very clear line where the high water mark left its debris there, and it has been receding now fairly steadily.
I live in Florida, just got notified my homeowner's insurance is going up 40% next year. Hey, dude, it's at least you have it. I thought that like most of the insurance providers in the state of Florida had completely been gutted. Chapter 11 bankruptcies left and right, and that they were actually setting up secondary insurances for the insurance companies, and even those guys were having a hard time because, it's just an inevitability that your house is going to get fucking flooded if you live in Florida, especially in certain areas, and that it makes no sense to insure them. Another company avoids risky Florida home insurance policies. Here's what caused the crisis. AAA said only a small number of policyholders will be affected. The move shows continued market volatility has prompted several insurers to shutter or leave the state. Insuring insurance is called reinsurance, and yes, it is a big industry. Insurance industry guy here. The federal government is forcing non-Florida insurance companies to enter into funding pools to insure Florida because no one wants to insure it themselves anymore. That's kind of fucked up. Federal government nanny state much? I thought the private market should be able to cover these issues. What's going on there? What's happening? Do you think there should be a state-provided insurance? I think there should be state-provided housing, and not in the areas that it currently is in the state of Florida or everywhere in general. But I don't think it's going to happen, especially in Florida, because Florida is like a libertarian paradise. Not like actuaries know how to price climate change exposure at all. I think they do know how to do that, which is why they're no longer insuring in Florida. A lot of insurance is pulling out of the state of Florida. Listen, at the end of the day, these guys, actuaries, no, you can say climate change is fake or whatever the fuck. You can say whatever you want about climate change, but the people that are crunching numbers are still going to factor climate change into their numbers crunching. It's not happening as an accident. You know what I mean? Their whole job is to make sure that they are still profitable. I have to explain something here for a lot of you guys, by the way. A similar thing could happen in any privatized insurance field. If the pool of the insured is too high risk, meaning that every single person that is dumping in to the larger pile of money on a monthly basis with their premiums end up having to take money out, then all of a sudden insurance doesn't work. A private insurance company in that situation will say, we're done, we're bankrupt, it's over. There's not much we can do. It's pretty simple, right? A similar example I usually use is the VA. The VA relies on government funds. It's the closest we have to socialized medicine. However, the VA has a pool of people that are all sick. Like pretty much every single person that even goes through basic training is going to need some level of medical attention. If not all of them are going to need psychiatric evaluations and help in general. Okay. So because that pool that is under the coverage of Veterans Affairs, because that pool is all in dire need of healthcare, there is no not sick people to leverage against. Okay. So that is precisely the reason why you always have to put more and more money into it, and it becomes basically a gigantic money sink. The way to solve that, the insurance problem in general, the way to solve it is to make sure that there's only one national insurance provider. You pay in to the national insurance provider in the form of monthly premiums, if you want to call it that. Okay. The VA, much like socialized medicine all around the world, also runs into a separate problem in the form of obviously underfunding flooding beyond what I was talking about with respect to like every single person that enters the VA pool is in dire need of medical care, unlike normal insurance. Okay? How does normal insurance work? You have a pool of healthy people, you have a pool of young people, for example, you have people like myself that are paying into insurance without ever getting anything back from insurance, right? Because our costs, our medical costs, even with how inflated American healthcare is marginal in comparison to an older person or someone who has cancer or someone who gets into a car crash or something. Okay? I'm young, relatively, and pretty healthy, and I pay hundreds of dollars in premiums, and I rarely ever get back anything in return from my insurance. People like myself and people like yourselves in the chat who don't have any kind of like serious chronic injury or medical conditions are what keep the insurance pool alive. So I say, why don't we just do that at the national level? Make sure that there is a large pool of every single person unconditionally paying into it, okay? And you can price adjust it to how much money they have, how much money they make, and even fucking cap it at a certain point. Have a bottom and have a ceiling if you want to put that out there as well, right? And then all the healthy people are pooling their funds together. They're not taking anything out of it because they're healthy. And then the unhealthy, those who need it, are leveraged adequately inside of that structure. I'm just saying that could probably be a better way to deal with insurance in general.
Now it's probably in the 30-mile-an-hour range. Still dangerous. We're taking shelter behind one of these grand trees that are here. But we've seen plenty of this, corrugated steel sheeting, tin roofs blowing around, peeling off here. But again, just to sort of level what the locals were telling us, last night we went out on a just short boat cruise in the calm before the storm with a local captain here who said he was worried that the surge would reach the roof line of the dockside grill right there. You can see it came up a few feet inside, but nowhere near their worst fears. That gives you some perspective that it probably could have been a lot worse in this area, but as far as what's happening further up, Keaton Beach, all of that, we don't know yet. It's too soon to tell.
The wind continues to push up the water from the Tampa Bay as well, John. We are getting now these intermittent tropical feeder bands, and what was completely visible across Tampa Bay just moments ago has now been obscured by these heavy sheets of rain coming in. It is raining at quite a clip, probably a good half an inch to an inch per hour. This will cause localized inland flooding, and what's happening is this is all working together to create the very difficult storm surge conditions that you see unfolding behind us on Bayshore Boulevard. Now, this area floods, yes, during rainy days. It happens. But now this is in conjunction with the surge of water that has been pushed up with this major hurricane, the inland flooding meeting it at the same time, and then also the exaggerated tides from the supermoon and the full moon that's happening as we speak. Now, we just went through the low tide cycle. That was at 7:56 this morning. Now we're working our way back up into high tide. So the concern here is that the surge that already broke record levels, it's one of those gusts of wind that come through. We're concerned that the surge later this afternoon, roughly 2 p.m., are going to be exacerbated by all of these kind of a cacophony of issues here. The supermoon, the storm surge, the push of the water from the storm, and that's going to work together to create even further storm surge flooding concerns here along the Tampa Bay region. Tampa, you can't see it, but it is over my right shoulder. We've been here all day, and the bay has just been angry. The water pushing up, creating waves, sometimes towering over 2-3 stories at times. And, as these bands come in, they are literally stinging our face here. There have been spectators from these houses that have come to just see the scene unfolding. And, this is different for them because they know that this road can flood. But with this amount of water lapping up to the property lines, they know that their homes are at risk as well. John, so much going on here. I'm going to send it back to you.
I have a silly question. Why do they get the reporters to stay in the storm? Seems kind of psychotic to make them go to the perils of the storm. Content, baby. Content. That's what it is. Like, what do you mean? That's what it is. They're having a little bit of fun with it, you know? It's sick. Yesterday, when I was describing how the storm hunters work, like how the Air Force sends a plane directly into the fucking eye of the hurricane, we're basically saying the exact same thing. They were like, what? Like, we're fucking flying a plane into it? Like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, these are things that we must do. This is a thing that you got to do. These guys mostly are doing it, not for scientific reasons, obviously, but mostly for content, but they kind of like it, you know? They probably do.
So the wind direction will be completely opposite to what we're receiving here. And that's important. Let's compare it to Ian from September of last year. There is a major difference to what happened in Tampa Bay that had the water literally sucked out because of the direction of the wind was pushing offshore here in Tampa versus the onshore component that brought the surge to Fort Myers Beach. Same thing is happening here. We happen to be in the onshore component of this storm, and that is why we continue to see this push, this surge of water that is coming directly off the Gulf of Mexico. John.
In terms of the tides, you were talking about the supermoon and the tide rising. How does tide work with storm surge? Storm surge is independent of high tide, but the tides can make it worse?
Yeah, this is just incredible to think the unfortunate coincidence of this timing, right? We have the high tide in Tampa Bay occurring about 2 p.m. this afternoon. We also have this supermoon. Let me explain what that is. Supermoon is actually when the full moon is at its closest approach to Earth. It's roughly about 18,000 miles closer than it normally would be on its elliptical path around the planet. So what that does is it exaggerates the tug, the pull on the ocean.
Will they talk about how it makes you gay? Just saying, 75% water. Moon controls the water. Tide goes in, tide goes out. Can't explain it. Just saying. Supermoon, known to make people more gay.
And it exaggerates the low tides, but it also exaggerates the high tides. And now that we have what is a hurricane that has pushed up all of this water in combination with this high tide and the supermoon, we have the potential here for more surge in the locations that have that onshore component, like I was explaining to you a moment ago.
Our breaking news coverage of Hurricane Idalia continues. The storm is now moving quickly across southern Georgia as a Category 1. And Idalia is so massive, we're talking 250 miles of the southeast right now being hit all at once. The city of Savannah now bracing. 3 to 5 feet of storm surge expected there.
I'm happy that, like, as the day goes on, they went from it's going to be Cat 4 with like 12-foot storm surges to, like, in Savannah, it's Cat 1 and it's going to be 3 to 5 foot storm surge, which is still pretty devastating, but it's not as devastating and as deadly, I guess. So that's good. I wonder if the climate change deniers are going to be like, oh yeah, they fucking claimed that this was going to be awful. Like, look at them again. Like, classic meteorologists, like, doing wrong by the people. You know what I mean? They're lying again. They're trying to freak us out. It's not that bad.